Hey, what's up guys? Guardian here, coming to you guys with a video of my updated Royal Paladin deck for V-BT03 Miyaji Academy. So yeah, we got Monarch Sanctuary Alfred in this set. We also got some other support cards for Royal Paladin, which I'm really happy about. Yeah, I've been playing the deck for little over a week and a half now, give or take. And I'm pretty happy with where the deck build's at now. I've been testing different ratios and stuff like that, so yeah, without further ado, we'll get stuck into the deck, and I'll show you guys what I play. Now, of course, you saw Monarch Alfred on the front there, but before we get stuck into him, we're going to go with the Grade 4s first. So, of course, we're playing 2 copies of Exculpate the Blaster. Now, Exculpate, I wanted to keep him in the deck at 2. I feel like 2 is just a good ratio for him. Being able to just attack your opponent's board is just really good, especially against the Axel matchup. And yeah, I feel like 2 is just a solid number just in case one of them gets damage checked, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's nothing really much else to talk about Exculpate. I mean, he's just basically an alternative win con for the deck, and I think he's just really solid as a card. So yeah, I think 2 Exculpate is absolutely fine. So that's the Grade 4s, so we'll go into the Grade 3s. We are running 3 copies of the brand new Monarch Sanctuary Alfred, big tower boy himself. Yeah, this guy is really cool. So basically, whilst on Vanguard, continuous, all of your Blaster Blades on Rear Guard Circle and Guardian Circle get 10,000 power and 5,000 shield. So more or less, your Blaster Blades become Gallatines at that point, basically 10k interceptors. But they also have 20,000 power, and with that being a continuous effect, that lasts during your turn and your opponent's turn, which means your Blaster Blades now become more difficult to attack and actually retire now. So that's really cool. But of course, the other skill is when placed on Vanguard, you can counterblast 1, soul blast 1, return a Blaster Blade from your drop zone to your hand. So that's really cool because you could soul blast the Blaster Blade from your soul and then add it back to your hand from the drop zone after the skill. So that's pretty cool there. But yeah, you add a Blaster Blade back to your hand, and then Monarch Alfred gets 15,000 power, and if you have an Alfred in your soul, Monarch Alfred gets a critical as well. So yeah, I think it was really well described by something else that these are essentially like, new versions of like a cross ride, if you know what I mean, where you need like a particular type of card in your soul to get an additional benefit. I think that's a really good way of looking at it, is that these are like cross rides of, the other Alfred and stuff like that. But yeah, Monarch Sanctuary, he's really good, but I think 3 of him is perfect for me. Just because I think like 2, you're just not benefiting from him as much, and 4 just feels like way too many, because when I played 4, I had many games where I was just getting clogged with Grade 3s in my hand, and I just had situations where I just couldn't guard anything. So I think he's good, but with Exculpate in the deck as well, and also, of course, King of Knights Alfred, which is the next Grade 3, I think 3 of them is a respectable number to not only get his utility going, but also just benefit from him as a whole in the deck. So yeah, 3 Sanctuary is what I decided on instead of 4 in the ratios. So we'll move on to the last Grade 3, which is, of course, like I said, going to be 4 copies of King of Knights Alfred. So yeah, pretty simplistic in the deck. I mean, the one thing about King of Knights Alfred, which I always just, keep saying to myself, he is a Blaster Blade searcher. And it's what makes the deck really consistent in a way, because, Monarch Sanctuary, sure, he could soul blast the Blaster Blade out of your soul and then return it to your hand, so if you have no other option to ride except for Monarch, you can do that. But the thing I like with King of Knights Alfred is that if you don't have the Blaster Blade, you need to search it, because Exculpate and Monarch both use it. So it's pretty vital to get that Blaster Blade, online, and at least have one of them, in the field somewhere or in your hand so that it's ready to use. And that's where King of Knights Alfred shines, because obviously you could just search for it. So you could run Alfred early in this deck if you wanted to, but I'd probably only go as far as running 1 of it, just so that you could, fit the different ratios of the cards in the deck. I mean, you could up it to 10 Grade 3/4s if you wanted to, and run 1 Alfred early with the 4 King of Knights, or take 1 King of Knights out and put an Alfred early in, or 2. It's up to you, but I personally went with 9 in a total of Grade 3s and Grade 4s, just because that's what I'm comfortable with. I feel like 10 is just way overdoing it, just because you're just left with, like, not a lot of defensive cards. So yeah, I think 4 King and Knights Alfred with the 3 Monarch is a good enough ratio for me. So that is that. So moving on with our grade 2s, we have 4 copies of our main man Blaster Blade, of course. Yeah, it's a staple in this deck. You know, people say, you know, it's basically Blaster Blade deck, which is kind of true, to be honest. You know, a lot of your main strategies revolve around Blaster Blade, so you kind of have to play it for that matter, but it is essentially just, you know, the toolbox card of the deck. You know, you're going to search it with King and Knights, recycle it with Monarch, and use it as part of your win con with Esculpate as well. So, yeah, it's a very vital piece for the deck. What I will say with Blaster Blade is it is always nice to have the ability to retire if you want to. It's especially more helpful in against like the Excel matchups in case you don't have access to the Exculpate. So yeah, having the retire option is nice, but you just, you know, it's up to you whether you want to use it or not. You know, use it at the right time, not all the time. You know, that's what I'm basically trying to say. And yeah, the crit effect from Blaster Blade, I do tend to try use it whenever I can, but it does require a particular setup, you know, to not like neg myself too much in my hand. But yeah, it's solid. You know, you can't really say much else about Blaster Blade. So I will put him next to King and Knights Alfred up here. Just there will do. So moving on, we have the new grade 2 from the Miyaji set, which I really, really love. This guy and his partner are just amazing. So of course, I am talking about Knight of Loyalty, Bedivere. So yeah, really nice to see Bedivere and K make a return to standard. And boy, did they go ham with this card. I mean, Bedivere and K are very simple with what they do, but it's what they do that make them so good. So when Bedivere is called from your hand, you can call a K from your hand, and if you do, you can draw a card. That has no cost to it, so you just get a free +1 for like no cost, which is amazing. And the second skill is during the battle that it's boosted by K, it gets an additional 3,000 power. So K also has this skill where if it boosts Bedivere, it gets 3. So in total, you're looking at 24,000 whenever K and Bedivere are like, you know, working with each other in a column, which is just insane because 24 is like, I mean, the extra 1,000's a bit weird, but with the looks of the direction that they're going with the game, it looks like they're trying to make 14k sort of like the bigger base number for other clans as well. Like, I know that Bermuda got the grade 4, that's 14k as well. So I don't know. It depends on what they do, what they're going to do with other support for other clans in the future. But just in case, you know, if 14k is more of a relevant base number for some decks, K and Bedivere can still meet it. So it's just really, really good. And on a force marker, you're going to be hitting for like 34,000, which is just crazy. And that's one vital thing about this deck that I want to like, you know, hammer down is that the main thing with this deck that I did was focus a lot about hitting the 33k magic number. And the reason I'm aiming for 33k is because no matter what deck you're versing, they'll always at minimal have to use 2 cards to guard with, you know, whether if it's 1 from hand and an intercept or 2 from hand, they need to use 2 cards to guard at the attack. Because at very minimal, they can guard for 20, which will boost their 12 or 13 up to a 32 or a 33, but because you're 33, they'll need to put in another 5k worth of shield to stop the attack, which is going to cost them another card. So it's either going to be a PG with a discard, or it's going to be a heal trigger with something else, you know, an intercept or just another card in general. So that's the sort of goal with this deck, and it's kind of why I really like how this deck works, because it makes 33k columns ridiculously easy. What I will say, though, is try put 1 force marker on your Vanguard, because your Vanguard column is the only column that can't reach 33 consistently, unless like you're using Monarch Alfred to get the +15 to make them 28, and then a booster can just, you know, put them over that mark. But someone like King and Knights Alfred can get the 23, but with a booster it's only 31. So the force marker would help a lot there. So it would require the opponent to either just no guard the attack altogether and potentially get critted in the face, or just, you know, start taking cards out of the hand to stop these big attacks coming through. So, yeah. But yeah, Bedivere and K are just amazing, and we will see K later on, so don't worry about that. So to finish off the grade 2s, this is where I struggled, because when I was trying to build this deck, I was going between 2 different builds, which it looks like everyone else has been doing that as well, where they're going between either a deck with K and Bedivere in it, or with K and Bedivere and a Carnate and Pongal. And although I do like Akane and Pongal, I decided against it because it doesn't particularly function in my strategy, which is meeting that 33k number. And another grade 2 actually helps me a lot with that strategy, which is 4 copies of Sage of Arts Joran. So the one thing about this card that made me think about it more was because with Bedivere and K, your opponent's more than likely going to try and attack your Bediveres to try stop those columns from existing. But it doesn't particularly matter because, yeah, sure, you can retire my Bedivere. That stops the 34k column, but, you know, I could just simply slap down a Joran on the field, and his skill gives him 5 as long as I've got 3 or more rear guards. So he's already 15. Then the 8k boost from K will be 23, and then the force marker makes it 33. So I'm still getting the required number that I'm looking for, just with a different grade 2. So it's like, I'm not particularly that bothered if you kill my Bedivere, because I'm just going to replace it with something else. So yeah, that was sort of the thought patterns I had with this deck. And also, Joran's just really good with the grade 2 rush as well. You can just put it on the other column and he'll be a 15k attacker. And then, of course, the main thing is that Joran just doesn't cost anything. You know, he doesn't cost you any resources. So yeah, I just absolutely love Joran in this deck build. I think he just synergizes so well with what the strategy is and how the deck works as a whole. So yeah, so we have 4 copies of Joran there. You can go to 3 if you want to put like the 4th Monarch in, if you really want to run 4 of that. But yeah, I'm happy with running the 4 Joran. So we'll move into the grade 1s. So to start the grade 1s, we have 4 copies of course, the partner of Bedivere, Knight of Friendship K. Yeah, the new artwork of these two just look really, really cool. But yeah, like I said, when it boosts Bedivere, it gets an additional 3, so they'll both get 3 respectively and get 6 on the entire column, making 24. But K himself says that when he's placed from hand, you can counterblast 1, search your deck for a Bedivere, and then call it to rearguard. So he can create those columns by himself for just 1 counterblast. And the crazy stuff starts happening when you call a K, when you call a Bedivere, and then use his skill to call K from hand, and then use that K to call another Bedivere from deck. So you got 3 rear guards, and you drew a card as well. So all you need now is just 1 more rear guard, and then your Blaster Blade's crit is now online. So yeah, these two just synergize so well with each other, and I honestly just love the addition of these cards in the deck. They're just really, really nice. So for the next grade 1, I went for a little bit of an unorthodox choice. I've noticed a lot of lists online, like a lot of topping lists seem to be going for like 4 Merrin and 4 Allen. I am running Merrin and Allen in this deck, but I wanted to make room for 3 copies of Wingle. And the reason I want to play Wingle in the deck is because he is so much more useful, because like I said, he meets the strategy that I want to do, which is meet that 33k magic number. So with Blaster Blade and Wingle, they're 23. So a force marker makes that 33. And then, you know, if I've got Monarch Alfred on top of that, that's an additional 10 to Blaster Blade, which is 43. So if you can get that high, you know, that's even better. You know, that's just a bonus. So yeah, Wingle has just been performing so much better. And the reason I want to play 3 of them as well is that you really want to see Wingle, like if you're doing the grade 2 rush with Blaster Blade, you really want to be seeing Wingle to put behind the Blaster Blade to make it a 23k column. Because, you know, realistically, you'll either have a Bedivere or a Joran in the other circle on your right rear guard column, either on the road or with a boost, it doesn't matter. Then you have like a Wingle and a Blaster Blade in the Vanguard column, and then you'll have like a Bedivere and a K in the left column. So yeah, you'll have like a 24k swing, a 23k swing with Vanguard with 2 crit, and then you'll have the 15 or a 10k swing, whether it be Bedivere or Joran on the other circle. So yeah, I really wanted to play Wingle at 3 just so I had a higher chance of seeing it in case the grade 2 rush does come up with that opportunity. But yeah, it just works well generally because you've got King of Knights Alfred supporting it as well, and you've also got Monarch, which is just helping you make ridiculous columns as well with Blaster Blade. So yeah, that's my option on that, but you can change it back if you want to run more like Merrins and Allens. So speaking of, for Merrin and Allen, we have 3 copies of Merrin and 2 copies of Allen. So the reason I decided to go for these ratios is because Allen does have value with the grade 2 rush, but it really depends on what you have. You could call Allen into the right rearguard column and then call like the Wingle behind it with its skill, and then easily set up like a Bedivere and K column in the other one. So that's not an option you can do there in case you don't have, like, the access to the second bed of ear or a Joran available for that right rear guard column. Alan can do it well because it can reach 11 and it can still attack, a grade 2 or a grade 1 Vanguard, depending on what your opponent's at, who went first or second. So yeah, it does have some use in that respect. But I prefer Merrin just because, with Merrin, you can use the effect multiple times as long as it stays on the field. And depending on what matchup you're against, some decks just won't retire it at all. So you have access to that draw whenever you need it. So I kind of like Merrin more for that respect. But yeah, I just like having the 5 draw power cards in this deck. Like, I see these grade 1s as just the draw power cards. So yeah, I was running 6 more comfortably last time, but that was because I was playing Soul Saver. But because we've added more units into the deck with Monarch Alfred, which cost counterblasts, I wanted to reduce the amount of counterblasts down a little bit to make room for it. So I went from 6, draw power cards to the 5 draw power cards. So that's kind of how I went about it in this deck. But yeah, that is essentially the grade 1s, and we simply just have the grade 0s, which I don't really think I need to go over, but I'll go over them anyway. We have the 1 copy of Gleim, of course. And then for the triggers, like always, I think this has been the same ever since my first deck profile in this deck, when Standard first began. But you have 4 Epelner, 4 Flogel, so 8 criticals, and then we have the 4 draw PGs and the 4 heal triggers. Yeah, nothing really changed on that matter. But for the most part, I might as well show you my markers as well, because why not? We have the Monarch marker, a Blaster Blade marker, an HM marker, and then we've got my signed markers there as well. I am looking to get the Miyaji Academy HM marker at some point, but because I've actually got quite a long time until the new extra booster set comes out with the new Royal Paladin Blaster cards, so I've got quite a lot of time there where I could potentially save some money up and get things like the HM marker, and I might just do that. So, and I also might try to get the SP Blaster Blade as well with the alternate artwork. But yeah, that is essentially the deck, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys liked the update. And I will be showing you guys my Gold Paladin deck in the future. There's Ravenhead Ezel marker through there. But I will show you that probably next week, I think. We'll see. But I've got some other video ideas in the works. I'm actually thinking of a new series, which I may or may not do. We'll see. But yeah, either way, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Look forward to some new videos on the channel. And like always, take care and have a nice day. See you later, guys. Bye.